Tô? Veu? Estic al... Good evening. Thank you for joining us at this conference here, and thank you for the people at home that are connected online. My name is Luis Batet. I am the director of the Master in Nuclear Engineering here at Barcelona Engineering School. And my colleague Jordi Freixa is the program director of Master MINE, European Master in Nuclear Energy. He will take care of the online connection and the handling of the questions from the audience. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Alejandro Zurita. He was born in Barcelona in 1955. He graduated from this school with a specialty in energy in 1978 and got his PhD in nuclear safety at the Technische Universität Hannover in 1985, sorry, that's dyslexia. Dr. Zurita was nuclear safety inspector at the Spanish Nuclear Regulatory Authority, the Consejo de Seguridad Nuclear. Later, he was head of Trillo nuclear plant section at Siemens Kraftwerk Union. Yeah. At Euratom, he was head of safety and chaired the reactor safety committee at the High Flux reactor in the Netherlands, and also was head of the International Nuclear Research Cooperation from 2008 up to 2016. He worked on the first Ukrainian association to the Euratom Nuclear Research Program, as well as with the Science and Technology Center in Ukraine on fusion research, and with the International Science and Technology Center in Moscow on severe accidents and fusion research. So, Dr. Zurita, the ground is yours. Thank you for being here, for returning to your home. Yeah,
thank you very much, Professor Batet. Thank you also to Professor Freixa and all of you for attending this meeting. So, I would like to say to the kind words of Luis Batet that please note that many of these things are from the last century. So I don't remember very well, but it seems he's right. And also you have noted that many of these things are ex. So I am ex of many things. I am just the husband of my wife, Ana Maria, and the father of 4 children and 2 grandchildren. Yes, for me today will be a pleasure to try to explain the situation and the implications of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So the presentation will be composed of 3 blocks, let's say. The situation, the technical situation of the plant, together with the implications of the International Atomic Energy Agency. So legal and technical consequences of this situation, and then to try to explain a bit which are the perspectives for the future. Next, please. Well, I think this is really important not to forget that we are in a war, that this is the real drama. Okay? This is the real drama. This is a painting of the 19th century. You can see here, in this case, Russian soldiers of the Tsar Empire sent to the war. You can see the desperation of some people with soldiers. Other people are happy, just dancing, and some of others don't care too much. But nevertheless, we should not forget that presently thousands of people, Russians and Ukrainians, are dying for a stupid war. Next, please. Well, which are the main nuclear installations in Ukraine? We have 4 nuclear power plants. Chernobyl is not anymore active, isn't it? And we have the Zaporizhzhia, is the biggest one, and is essential for the Russians also, for the electrical supply of Crimea and Donbass. And here in red you have the different military involvement of Russia. So in red, Zaporizhzhia was affected by the military actions. Also these 2 research centers, the National Science Center and also the Institute of Nuclear Research. And also Chernobyl was occupied during, let's say, 5 weeks. But very important is to say that Zaporizhzhia is the main power plant in Ukraine, nuclear power plant in Ukraine. This is in fact wrong. This is 27% of the energy of Ukraine, but electricity is more than 50%. Zaporizhzhia represents more than 50% of electricity. This should be corrected in the next week. So here just to show some pictures. At the beginning of the war, during 22 days, the Kharkiv Institute of Physics and Technology was shelled with several impacts. But fortunately, no radiological impact, but some destructions. And also to say that this center is very important. For instance, this neutron source at this institute was built by the US Argonne National Laboratory in conjunction with the Ukrainians. Next, please. Well, Zaporizhzhia. Zaporizhzhia is composed of 6 Russian designed pressurized water reactors. This is called like this in the Russian terminology. Well, as mentioned, more than 0.5% of the electricity in Ukraine is produced by Zaporizhzhia. Next, please. Well, this is the problem. Zaporizhzhia is located just on the front line. This is the situation presently. The Donbass, 2 provinces of Donbass, Zaporizhzhia and Kherson, and Crimea. No? Here is the reservoir, a big lake, a big reservoir. And here, in the banks of the reservoir is located Zaporizhzhia. So you can imagine that in this front line, this is not a very easy situation for the local people. Next, please. Well, Zaporizhzhia. We said, this is to be corrected, we say that this is the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe. The biggest not because the reactors are the biggest, but because there are 6 reactors, which are, let's say, 3 loops normally, so about 1,000 megawatts installed. But in fact, you know that there are reactors with 4 loops and about 1,400 megawatts installed power, isn't it? So, what is the situation today? In March 22, this installation was conquered by the Russian military people. So since then, it is operated by Euratom, the Russian operating organization, together with the Russian regulator. And naturally, at the beginning, you had only Ukrainian operators, Ukrainian staff. So these people, many people disappeared, many people escaped from the war and from the situation. But initially, it was operated with the former Ukrainian staff, which had to sign contracts with Euratom to be able to keep the job. It was at the beginning, sign contracts with Euratom to keep the job. But recently, it means I think will appear here. Since February of this year, they should have also Russian nationality to be able to continue working at the installation. And in fact, on this day, there were 120 operators which were not permitted to enter to the installation. The impact of these 120 people, some of them very specialized people, is still to be seen. No? But okay. Naturally, Russia is trying to have only Russian, involved Russian operators. In August 22, the Security Council decided to send inspectors of the agency to Zaporizhzhia. Since February to August, during this half year, the Ukrainians were trying desperately to have United Nations in the plant, because the inspectors of the International Atomic Energy Agency are naturally UN officials. But until the Security Council did not decide, it was not possible to visit Zaporizhzhia. So, since that time, the agency established shifts, normally monthly shifts of inspectors. Now we have already the 18th shift there. So, normally every month shift of 4 inspectors arrive to Zaporizhzhia. And then, since September 22, all 6 reactors are shut down. So they don't produce any more electricity. And in October, Zaporizhzhia was declared per decree Russian installation. This is important because we will see later that legally it has also relevance. Next, please. Well, naturally, when the reactors are shut down, you are not producing electricity, but you need electricity. You need electricity for your safety systems, you need electricity for maintenance works, and you need electricity maybe also to cool the radiated fuel. But normally, in all nuclear power plants, you have several lines, in this case 4 lines before the war, and you have emergency diesel generators. This is the normal thing, the first and the third element in any plant. But here in Zaporizhzhia, you have further to the 4 lines, you have a coal thermal plant close in the vicinity of Zaporizhzhia, and you have also 6 lines, high voltage, voltage is a bit lower, but even high voltage lines linked to Zaporizhzhia. So Zaporizhzhia is in a very comfortable situation because you have not only 4 lines, you have 4 plus 6, 10 lines able to deliver electricity for your needs. Next, please. But nevertheless, you know that the network, the electricity network in Ukraine is very affected by the war and very unstable. So this instability of the electrical network meant basically that in several occasions there was a loss of redundancy in the supply of electricity to the plant. So in such a way that the first time in October 22, but later the first time was to have total loss of off-site power. So it means it was not possible to deliver electricity to the plant. So it means none of these 10 high voltage lines was operated. This is really something, the first time in the 37, 38 years of life of the plant, of the 6 reactors. No? But it does not occur only one time. Since then, since October 22 until December 23, 8 times. So 8 times, and for the first time in this history of the plant, the emergency diesel generators should be operated. These generators are based on diesel, so this is not a normal thing. Never in the 38 years, 37 years when these generators were needed. So 8 times already. And recently, also 1 month ago, on the north part of the reservoir, there is also an hydroelectric plant feeding electricity to Zaporizhzhia, suffered explosions and fire, and they lost 1/3 of generation capacity. So this is also an additional problem to supply electricity to the plant. But this is not only for Zaporizhzhia important. In fact, because of the instability of the network, also in November 22, all 4 Ukrainian nuclear power plants were without electricity. So all suffered at the same time, simultaneously, the loss of off-site power. And Chernobyl also, but it was okay. Chernobyl is more for maintenance during 1 week in March. Next, please. Well, we spoke about electricity. Electricity, you see that is a problem. But you need electricity for this maintenance work, for safety systems and so on, but you need electricity to run the pumps for cooling. if you have electricity, you need water. So here, we have a reservoir which is very big. And here was an hydropower also plant of 350 megawatts. And this dam is 128 kilometers downstream of the plant. No? Next, please. But what occurred in June of last year? This dam was destroyed. This 2,100 square kilometers is 28% of the province of Barcelona. This is not a small dam. Can you imagine 30% of the province of Barcelona being a reservoir, and at once this reservoir is destroyed, and then you lose 7 meters of deepness? Can you imagine the impact of this disaster? Next, please. Fortunately, Zaporizhzhia, which is here located, the 6 reactors, had this cooling pond. So here is the big reservoir, but they had this pond. Why did they have this pond? Because in the year 1941, the dam was also destroyed by the Soviets at that time to avoid Nazi troops invasion of Nazi troops. So it means that when in the year 1956 the dam was reconstructed, somebody was thinking, let's also build a cooling pond, in order that if for whatever reason the reservoir disappears, we have still here enough cooling for the plants. So next, please. Yes. So it means it was in June, no, 5th of June. In May, it was the reservoir. Here you have the nuclear power plant. This picture is in June. Yeah. You can see the reservoir empty. The river continues here somewhere, no? But the reservoir is empty. So here you have the power plant with the 6 reactors and the pond. Next, please. So this is a picture of October, but nevertheless it's the same situation. We have about 16 meters high, the pond, and 7 meters below you have the river. Unfortunately, the thermal plant here close to the nuclear reactors is also delivering water to the pond. So the pond, naturally, you need 250 square cubic meter per hour to refrigerate the radiated fuel. But you have evaporation, you lose water. You need water, and the water is coming from, here is the thermal plant, it's difficult to see here. Here is the cold channel, and here the hot channel. So the hot channel of the thermal power plant is feeding the pond, plus, next one, plus 11 groundwater wells which were perforated in the site. So the water of the thermal power plant was not enough, but with the 11 groundwater wells is presently sufficient. So when the Kajovka dam was destroyed, naturally was, not to forget this, was an environmental disaster, human disaster also, but not the 18,000 Soviets who died when the Soviets destroyed the dam in the year 1941. Young people. But okay, there were also human casualties, but environmental disaster to the Black Sea. But there was no loss of cooling thanks to this cooling pond. But naturally, the redundancy is lost. You have only now the pond. So you have the 11 groundwater wells, and you have only the pond. The structural situation of the pond is also a challenge. Because if you have now a bomb or something shelling on the pond, if you lose the pond, you are in real trouble. Well, yes. Well, this is also interesting because recently, also in January 2023, the Russians wanted to put one of the reactors in operation. And now there is again the discussion to put one reactor in operation. But analysts think that this this willingness of the Russians is just to show control on the situation. But if you put one reactor in operation, the 250 cubic meters per hour is not enough. So you could put this in operation just to show that the reactors are okay, but are not okay also because the maintenance was not proper, no? But it means that even if they put one of the reactors in operation, this situation with the 11 wells and the supply, water supply of the thermal power plant is not enough. So they are now thinking possibly to pump from the river which is now 9 meters down. This is also very important to say that these emergency procedures, there are other emergency procedures which were developed during this exercise. Next, please. You have heard surely about the European Nuclear Safety Regulators Group. So the Consejo de Seguridad Nuclear is there together with other regulators. And these people, after the Fukushima accident, there was the so-called nuclear stress tests supervised by this group of regulators. No? And it was done for all the European EU member states, plus Ukraine and Switzerland. So Ukraine already participated in this exercise, which is a very positive thing. Because of this, Ukraine developed a national action plan in 2013, which was updated different times. Naturally, these nuclear stress tests were thought for very extreme situations, earthquake, flooding, whatever. So, and then, based on these action plans for each country were developed. So, the Article 5 of this action plan, of the Ukrainian action plan, deals also with long-term cooling without power supply. So it means that if at the end, because of the pond destruction, or because whatever reason, they will not have means to cool the plant, there are some procedures. But naturally, these procedures, mobile vehicles, pumping boats, submersible pumps, are not proven, are not tested. So this is really a great risk. Next, please. Well, you are familiar. I think all of you are familiar with the fuel assemblies. No, you have the pellets, you have the rods, and you have the assembly. Next, please. So it's needless to say what is the situation. If you don't have cooling, you have here the core of the reactor with the different fuel assemblies. If you don't have cooling enough, the residual heat here will start to warm up the fuel and to destroy the cladding, the circular cladding and so on, and to liberate radioactive elements, fission products. Next, please. Okay. Then the problem, the risk is naturally because of lack of electricity, because of lack of water, you could have really a problem, a fuel meltdown accident. If you have a fuel meltdown accident, even small, like 3 Mile Islands, for instance, you are already in a level 4 or higher of the International Nuclear Event Scale. No? It means that you would have transboundary and indiscriminate impact affecting various countries, affecting nature and people in different countries. So it means that irrespective of the amount of this emission, the impact, psychological and political impact will be huge. So, yes, still here. Yes, naturally, this is what occurred in Fukushima, but naturally in Fukushima occurred because with the tsunami, not only the high voltage lines were destroyed, but also the emergency diesel generators were destroyed. So they did not have electricity to cool the radiated fuel. And 4 reactors in Fukushima were in operation, so the residual heat was very high. Naturally, here, after 1.5 years without operating the reactors, the residual heat is much lower. So, in case that there will be no possibility to cool the radiated fuel, you will have very probably release of radioactive products to the environment. But the political and psychological impact will be also huge. Next, please. So we have spoken about electricity, about cooling, water, and now about people, staff. This is also very important. I mentioned at the beginning that many people went away. At the beginning, there were more than 11,000 people. Presently, February, only 4,500. And the Russians say that they are recruiting about 1,000 people. But naturally, some people are experienced people from Euratom, from other nuclear power plants and so on, but not necessarily. So the essence is verifying the training requirements for these new operators. And since 2 months, the maintenance of some safety systems were postponed by the Russians, saying that due to general situation of the surroundings in the sense that in April there were drones. Nobody wants, everybody says the drones were from the others and so on, but the situation is not quiet there. So maintenance is being postponed, maintenance of some safety systems. I mentioned already at the beginning, the Ukrainian operators signed contracts and adopted Russian citizens. But this city was built, this is linked to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. When this construction started, this city was built also. Here is where almost all employees are living. At the beginning of the invasion was a disaster because there was no, the thermal power plant was also stuck, no coal, and was not operating, so the people were suffering temperature and lack of water. And many people disappeared there, many families went away, some operators remained alone and so on. Was a disaster. And now recently, there were also, recently means in September, in November of last year, and now during April, there were drones in Energodar. So, but Russia naturally is trying to present the situation in Energodar as very stable. They have created also unions of the workers of the plant and so on. They are trying to show that there is normality, but there is no normality. Next, please. So, with the luck, and furthermore, at the beginning was also a bit chaos in the sense that the Ukrainian operators received regulatory orders of the Ukrainian regulator. But the Ukrainian regulator was not anymore in the plant. The plant was managed by the Russians, with the Euratom as operator and with the other Russian regulator. So there were different indications to the operators. For instance, at the beginning of 2003, the Russians wanted to put in operation the reactor, the unit number 5. There was also against the regulatory orders of the Ukrainian regulator. So there was no clearness who was responsible for security and for emergency situations. This is something also to be learned for the possible standards coming now, coming in the future for war scenarios. No? So, the Russians announced that in September they will have a new on-site emergency plan. And the last time that Grossi was with the Russians, with Putin, it was expected to understand better which are the long-term operating plans of the Russians. But as mentioned before, if you don't have more water, you cannot have a normal operation of even one reactor. Next, please. Okay, electricity, water, stuff. And now there are drones, there are rockets, there are bombs, there is shelling. I mean, if you have direct impacts on reactor cores, it's difficult because these are protected by containment, but you have irradiated fuel pools within the reactor core, but also you have other installations, you have radioactive waste storage facilities, you have electrical equipment feeding to safety systems. It occurred in Vandellós 1. You have fire affecting electricity systems, which fed safety systems. So you can have also indirectly, you can have real problems if certain electrical equipment is damaged. And the cooling pump, the structural of the cooling pump, and related equipment. So if you have direct impacts on this, you could have a real problem, no? And this is not new. Look at in August 22, this was there was no radioactive release there was no impact, but it was new fuel, not irradiated fuel. But it would be irradiated fuel, you would have had impact, radiological impact. Next, please. Well, you have here the 6 reactors. You have here some installations with spent fuel. These are also critical because if you have a sabotage in spent fuel, I don't know exactly, but this here somewhere, you could have also, because in Fukushima you had irradiated fuel of the reactors and of the pools. And here you have also pools with irradiated fuel. So the Russians started already in December 22 to reinforce the physical protection to avoid sabotage. Sabotage will come. I mean, you have 4,000 people, 5,000 people, but now 3,500. We had sabotage in the mornings years ago. I don't know whether you have heard about this. No? So, physical protection. What I want to say is that the operators here, the people working here, Russians or Ukrainians, they are doing their utmost to keep the safety. But safety does not depend only on them. I mean, they are not there to destroy the plant. Everybody there, Russians or Ukrainians, are doing the best to keep the safety of the plant. But naturally, the things could go wrong because of political decisions. Next, please. So this is a summary. Reduction in the so-called defense in depth, levels and margins. You have vulnerable power supply or insufficient cooling. Now we have only one line of high voltage supply, and sometimes only one or two support lines. You have now the drill wells and the cooling pond to be really reinforced. This is so technical. This is the staffing situation. I mean, the staffing situation means that you did not work, did not do too much maintenance work. I mean, many maintenance work was put aside because lack of expertise, lack of people, and so on. Not only this, you had also many external contractors. When you have the maintenance, when you change the fuel and so on, you have many companies doing specific works, they are specialized and so on. External contractors disappear at the beginning of the war. I mean, and then you have also shortage of spare parts. I mean, all the chain is affected. I mean, it's a war. So it means that even the postponed maintenance activities have implications on nuclear safety. Not only this, also degradation of components if you don't maintain properly. So if tomorrow there will be peace, even for 1 hour, you cannot put the reactor in operation because many maintenance work has not been done. Okay, so technical staff situation, and then what I have mentioned now. We have also mine within the perimeter of the site, drone attacks in April. So this is also a real risk. Next, please. Well, let me change now to the second block. This is very interesting because this painting was done by Ilya Repin. Ilya Repin was a Russian in the time of the SARS, a Russian born in Ukraine, but at the time was only big Russian. No? But Soviets and Russians were very proud always of this painting, which is in St. Petersburg, because it showed the strength of the Zaporizhzhian Cossacks. Zaporizhzhian are famous because to be very strong and very focused and so on. So, until 2 years ago, and I guess today also, Russians, Soviets, whatever, were very proud of the Zaporizhzhian Cossacks. Now the Zaporizhzhian Cossacks, the Zaporizhzhian are on the other side, you see? And also very interesting here is that Repin, all these faces are famous people of the time. Some of them are academicians, others are military people, officials of the government, friends, artists, and so on. So these faces are recognized of the time from people from that time. Next, please. So now we enter in the second block. The second block was a bit the implications. No? So, as mentioned at the beginning, since September 22, there are monthly shifts of nuclear safety inspectors. and since January also in all 4 Ukrainian plants. Certain critics on the low number of 4 inspectors per shift. The German Green Party is saying 4 inspectors is too low. You need more people. But naturally, if you have 10 people, you can control more. But the role of the IAEA is not only control, is to have to understand the situation, to inform the international community, to stabilize the nuclear safety and security. Being there as testimony, I mean, it's more difficult that somebody will try to do something. So the role of the inspectors there is very important. No? But there is always a but. They don't have access to all the parts of the plant. They don't have full and unrestricted access to all the parts. What does it mean? That perhaps there are things, there are elements somewhere there in the turbine hall, that there is a part of the turbine halls that they could not still visit. So you can think whatever, but this is a problem because now there are certain rules and they don't have the ability to check everything if they don't have full and unrestricted access. No? And also internationally, from 30 countries and the EU, there were in total until now 44 different deliveries of systems helping to the safety and so on. Next, please. So there is certain frustration by the officials of the agency because they have expected more engagement from the international community. So Grossi, the Director General, the Argentinian Rafael Grossi, he presented recently. He is presenting naturally every 3-4 months to the UN Security Council what is the situation. The last time was now in April, and they have meetings with presidents. The last ones were in February with Zelensky and in March with Putin. So, but naturally, the IAEA is doing their best, but if the political framework does not change, it's very difficult. But it's important what they are doing. And I was also very happy when, in 2005, they received the Nobel Prize for Peace, because naturally it was just as well. They at the time of Baradei and Hans Blix and so on, they tried to dismantle the arguments of the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They felt that naturally they were doing their best, and it was recognized with the Nobel Prize. And very important is that they have naturally standards, which are applied in all the world. Naturally, the big countries have also their own national standards, but nevertheless, they are very important for the nuclear agreement with Iran, with the North Korea situation, and they have a lot of applications for industrial and health applications, no? And safeguards, naturally. Next, please. Yes, well, it is not the first time that some nuclear installations are attacked militarily. So you remember the Chirac reactor of French design was destroyed by Israeli airstrikes. Also later in the war in Iraq, the Iraqi airstrikes destroyed the 2 units of the plant under construction. One of them was later refurbished and rebuilt by the Russians. The Germans did not want to be involved anymore, but it was also drafted from Union. And then in the Balkan, the First Balkan War, the so-called Slovenian Independent War, 10 days duration, also this installation, Westinghouse installation, American design, was affected. There were military actions in the site, but there was no impact on the. But okay, this is to say that this is not the first time that they were, but this is the first time that a nuclear power plant is in dispute as military target. This is a difference. These were more or less specific ad hoc actions, for whatever reasons, but this is now something which is lasting 2 years. Next, please. So, what is the situation? After the Second World War, Geneva Conventions to establish some rules for prisoners for war and so on. The additional Protocol 1 refers to international armed conflicts, because there was also another part which is for national conflicts. But international conference, and you have in Article 56 addressing restrictions on the protection of facilities with potential damage to population. It was done in 49. There were no nuclear power plants. There were nuclear bombs, but no nuclear power plants. So here is very vague, is thought dams, nuclear installations, chemical installations, whatever. But the Russian Federation signed this protocol, ratified this protocol, but 20 years later withdrew from this protocol. This is the Russian position of the Russian Federation. Among other few countries, Israel, Iran, Pakistan, India, the Americans never ratified that protocol, and they have the law of war manual of the Department of Defense rejecting explicitly this Article 56. So it means that, in fact, it cannot cover the present situation in Zaporizhzhia. Furthermore, you had this Convention on the Physical Protection of Nuclear Material and Nuclear Facilities, which was updated in 2005. But here is more illicit trafficking of nuclear materials on sabotage on facilities, but not covering military attacks of nuclear facilities. So it means that the legal framework is not covering the present situation. The present situation is new. Because it does not cover the present situation, all these points a certain legal vacuum, so that attacking nuclear facility may formally not be illegal. I mean, this is something surrealistic, but this is the situation now. Next, please. So, it means that it is very important to have a global treaty which is ratified by everybody. We will see that ratification is not guaranteed, but it helps. So, before the war, the present war, in 2019, the General Conference of the agency already addressed the need to prohibit armed attacks to nuclear facilities. Okay. Naturally, after the starting of the war, there were several attempts to correct the situation. In August, in September of 22, but they did not work. I mean, for instance, this did not work because the point of the resolution was Ukrainian facilities. How to protect Ukrainian nuclear facilities? Russia said Zaporizhzhia is Russian facility. It's in a province, in a Russian province. So, for whatever reason, but these attempts did not work. Please, next, please. Recently, the yearly conference is always in September in Vienna. There was this resolution adopted, the urgent withdrawal of non-authorized military and but well, it was approved, supported by 69 countries, and 6 voting against. But in this conference, Ukraine was elected as new member of the board. The board has 35 members. Naturally, Ukraine was very happy to be a new member of the board because they announced its desire to increase the influence of the agency to speed up the occupation of Zaporizhzhia. Later, also in November, there was a statement of the EU countries plus other 10 countries saying that Russia should leave. Next, please. Not all are bad examples. Even though India and Pakistan did not sign this Protocol 1, they had this bilateral agreement, non-nuclear aggression agreement, treaty, refraining from all this, undertaking operation and participating directly or indirectly in any action aimed at causing destruction or damage to any nuclear installation. This is a very good example. But okay, also between Argentina and Brazil, there is this bilateral agreement on safeguards. It was signed by Alfonsín and Sarney in '91. Next, please. So, it was the second block, the legal international situation. Now, absence of specific international standards for nuclear facilities in armed conflicts. What does it mean? It means that it's important to know this. The actions in '91 in the Slovenian Krško nuclear power plant was the basis to have certain technical assessments. There were assessments on fuel cooling, criticality, integrity of containment, inventory of radioactive products, and so on. But all this package of information, of work done by the Slovenian people at the time, with international support, was not used as a basis to produce international standards. Why not? Because the mandate of the agency does not consider military installations and armed conflicts. I mean, the agency is just for civil nuclear activities. You know that the safeguards is just to control activities and materials of civil installations, but not the military installations of the nuclear powers. So it means that here is the need to revise all this. So when the war started in March 22, the IAEA recommended these 7 pillars of nuclear safety and security. You can see this is quite logical, all of this. And when they arrived in September 22 to the plant, they realized that all these 7 were fully or partially compromised. They were not fulfilled. And the other point was the establishment of demilitarized safety protection zone around the plant. It was occupied by the Russians. The Russians were not ready to leave. So it means that at that moment, the 6 pillars were not 6, no, 7 pillars. I don't know why 6. These pillars were not fully respected, and no agreement was achieved on the protection zone. Next, please. Because there was no agreement on the safety protection zone, in May of last year, 5 principles essential for averting the catastrophic incident were established by the Security Council. Was proposed by the agency and accepted by the Security Council. Very important. No attacks from or against the plant. Not only against the plant, but also from the plant. Not use the plant as a storage of sitting of heavy weapons or military personnel. Well, we think that there are military people there. External power supply cannot be placed at risk. We see that this is at risk almost every day. And then all structural system components essential for safety must be protected from attack or sabotage. Okay. Full access to inspectors of all systems not granted, what I said before. If they don't have access to all the systems, all the buildings, all the installations, some of these things they cannot check. They cannot check. They did not see weapons inside, but they could not visit all the parts, for instance. No? You see, it's a problem. So IAEA they have a problem. Next, please. Well, because it is clear that there are no international standards for armed conflicts, already in July 22 was established a working group to start to review the standards, international standards, in view of the situation, based on the reports of inspectors. No? And this work continues. The last meeting of this Safety Standards Committee was in November of last year. The next one, I think, is now in June. And they are assessing the progress of this activity. They announced that this should be a technical document, this is the one used by the agency, should be issued in this year. They said first half of the year. I say this year. So the 7 pillars of the nuclear safety security, together with the 5 principles, will be naturally the basis, one of the main bases for the development of these standards. Next, please. So now to close. 3 last slides to close. The first one, the technical situation. No? Well, the degrees of safety depends in depth, together with the risk of explosions, make all these make the operation of the reactors unsustainable on medium term. I mean, this is clear. I mean, you cannot work in this way. The problem is that they don't have access. This access is not granted, so it's limiting the ability of the IAEA to observe the 5 concrete principles. Some statements of Grossi, Rafael Grossi, just as example. He said already time ago, Zaporizhzhia is in a kind of grace period. And I added, but not infinite. Grace period is something temporary. They are calling for maximum military restraint, especially in the last month with drones and so on. The things are not stabilized like in the previous months. And there is no place for complacency or belief that everything is stabilized, because naturally we have this problem since 2 years. And then people start to think that, okay, well, at the beginning, the media said, well, new Chernobyl, these kind of things, these kind of exaggerations, but that in 2 years nothing occurred, nothing grave occurred, does not mean that there is no, the thing is stable. It's not stable. So I would like to emphasize the technical professionalism of all operating staff, but it does not assure that a nuclear accident could occur. Naturally, with cross-border and indiscriminate impacts on nature and population, escalating the dimension of the war. You can imagine if there is a small release of radioactive elements and so on, the impact, political impact will be very big. There will be perhaps external implication for humanitarian reasons, for whatever, in Ukraine. Well, next please. Then the second conclusion is on the international legal framework. No? This is not a dangerous precedent. It's the first time. The other things were ad hoc cases, but this is precedent to have a military objective in the front line of a war and nuclear installation. So this is why it's important and urgent to ratify a new convention or treaty, whatever. Even some people will say, but okay, it does not mean that it will be assured, will be accomplished. But nevertheless, if you have a fully ratified convention or treaty, it should prevent the normalization of other attacks. Other attacks where? We can think loudly. Other attacks, we know that there are several parts in the world where, if the example here is bad, would be easily continued. So prevent normalization of other attacks, delegitimize any war-like action in other regions, and deny elsewhere the possibility of justifying any action. This is why it's important. Even one can say, well, the craziness of a war, nothing will be respected. This can prevent future situations. And then, naturally, this is a challenge for the international community to avoid an accident in a nuclear power plant. I mean, we have 450 reactors in operation in the world, 50 more in construction. You have, let's say, 500 nuclear power plants. In total, you have something like 6,000 or 7,000 years of operation accumulated with big accidents, Chernobyl, Fukushima, and so on. But you have a lot of experience. But if you cannot assure that these installations remain outside armed conflicts, the credibility of nuclear power is destroyed. I mean, it makes no sense. If nuclear installations are used as objective in wars, they are crazy, totally crazy. No? Next, please. And then on the standards. On the standards, well, it's true. This is in Ukrainian. No? Chernobyl is in the Ukrainian language. After Chernobyl, new nuclear safety standards were developed. Naturally, Chernobyl was very specific design, 5 different reasons together to have the accident, whatever. But naturally, the safety standards of the International Energy Agency were improved strongly because of Chernobyl. Fukushima produced a different, with the stress tests and so on, different national safety action plans. So it was also a progress of the knowledge and the situation. So this war should legitimize IAEA to support nuclear facilities in armed conflicts. So it means the UN Security Council should reconsider the mandate of the IAEA. Presently, the IAEA cannot produce new standards for armed conflicts because this is not their mandate. But let's say if tomorrow the war will finish, probably in a few time, very soon, we will have new standards for these scenarios. No? So this is why this document is now under preparation. Is very important. And will be announced for mid-24. So, yeah, very important in the new standards to identify responsibilities for nuclear safety and for emergencies, security and emergency. And there are people saying that, well, very probably the installations, in case of this regulation, should establish international control of a nuclear installation in an armed conflict. But there are different things which should be reevaluated. Very important is this, for instance. It was the first time that a nuclear facility was conquered by another. There were attacks and so on, destroying the plant, but never was, let's say, somebody hostile actions of state actors against nuclear facilities. And then, very important also, that the protection zone in case of armed conflicts could be established, which is not the case here in Zaporizhzhia. Next one. This is just to say that I was telling to Reventos, who left now, that, well, I mentioned to you, I am ex of many things, but I am a that person. But when after half a year starting the war, and reading many things which were inaccurate, I started to think why not to put clarity. And I was invited by this think tank in Brussels. I left Brussels years ago, but I lived 20 years there, to write something, my ideas. And then, well, because of this, I started to write and to present, and this is my fourth webinar. What I would like to say is that we should try, or this is my intention, to try to explain to the public opinion technically which is the situation. Because naturally the normal media are not prepared to explain necessarily technical. And then also to try to create a public opinion against this. At the beginning, every day you could see in the press, but now nobody speaks about this. But the risk is there, no? So this is a problem. Next, please. And here, just to mention, I was very happy that I could make this webinar to former UN officials. I mean, these people could have more impact, no? Next one. Also interesting because I lived 4 years in Brazil. I presented also last year to the Brazilian community the situation. Next, this is perhaps the main reference. You have here the links. The main reference for this think tank, Foundation of Global Governance and Sustainability, very well known in Brussels. And next one, and now very recently, CITOP, which is also very known here in Spain. I could also publish here something. Next, please. Okay, thank you very much. I hope 1 hour, sorry.
Thank you very much, Alejandro. Quite insightful, your pleasure. So I think we have time for questions from the audience, and I don't know if we have some questions from the. We will start with the audience here in Barcelona, and then we can go if there is some interventions in the chat. So we start, Leanne, please.
Yes. I mean, what are the tools that
Repeat.
what are the tools that the IAEA has in order to exert pressure on Russia and on Ukraine, just to make sure that this Security Council, I mean,
Well, yes, I understand. Well, the inspectors there, they have their knowledge, they have the coverage of the agency agreed by the UN Security Council, and actually they don't have political pressure. I mean, they play this game, which is the technical witness there, what is occurring there, informing to the world and so on, but trying to accompany the decisions to maintain safety and so on. But naturally, the main game is the political game between the two parties and the international community to finish the war. So this is why there is certain degree of frustration, if you want to say this word, in the sense that the action of the agency, even very important, is limited.
Yeah, but why would the agency be allowed to be there? I mean, what is the interest from Russia or from Ukraine in order to?
Well, look at the war started, and it is my understanding, the war started in February. In March, April, the Ukrainians were desperate, asking to have UN people there. Until August was not decided by the UN Security Council. Why? The five permanent members did not block this situation because the international pressure was too high. So the Security Council accepted to send inspectors there. The first visit was in September 22, so half a year later, with the restrictions we have explained. But I mean, it was international pressure to both parties. I mean, Ukraine wanted from the beginning to have the UN inspectors. It was a decision of the Security Council.
So in the end, it was like political pressure, but not from the Security Council itself, but from the.
Well, the Security Council naturally is permanent members 5, but there are, I think, more or less 15 other not permanent members, but members. Security Council is more, I don't remember exactly now the name, let's say 15, 20 countries. They decided to send inspectors there. Naturally, there was consensus because of political pressure. Yes. This is my understanding.
More questions?
I was thinking that would it be
Can you speak louder? Because the microphone here.
Okay. Would it be safer to keep the spent fuel there or to remove it? Because of course, removing it would be also a dangerous situation.
It's a good question, but look at this: you have war there, you have shells, you have drones, you have rockets. I mean, to move irradiated fuel is not an easy thing to do it properly, and even less in this kind of environment. So I think that this dispositive was not considered seriously. But the question is serious, eh? I mean, it's not feasible. I think it's better to keep the thing well protected, physically well protected, and to hope that the tension in the war is finished.
So when you are writing or presenting seminars on this, and you are trying to convey that there is a risk and it's not completely safe just because 2 years have passed and nothing has happened, but there's still a risk. How do you manage conveying that there is a risk without like causing panic and like being apocalyptic about it? Like, because maybe specialized people can understand better the risks and the strategies, but for the general population that don't know about nuclear, and maybe they are already skeptical about nuclear energy, how do you convey like, yes, there's a risk and we have to keep acting without being like, this is apocalyptic, right?
Look at what I try to say is that I started to think about this and to work a bit on this thing because I have now time. Just because of this, because the normal media exaggerated a lot without knowing the basis. I mean, when the Russians conquered the plant, the 4th of March 22, you could see in the newspapers, second Chernobyl, something like this. Well, I am not accusing them, but I mean, my idea was to put clarity. And the impression I have up to now is that well, the people who is interested and follow the things or the publications and so on, I think that in general they realize that there is a risk, but they understand perhaps a bit better. I am trying to do it not for specific people. They understand that you need electricity, that you need water, that it's not possible to have drones or bombs or mines or whatever. And if you have less people, you would not have maintenance. If you don't have maintenance, the safety is affected, etc., etc. They understand this, and I think this is already something. This is a contribution.
I mean, you were also. There was another question.
No.
I mean, you were also explaining about this need of getting water to the pond. I mean, and that this water was coming from the thermal plant. Is this thermal plant also operating like full time, or is it also like triggered?
Yes, I think it's now operating. At the beginning of the war, they did not have coal because of the chaos of the first weeks and so on. And this is why the people in Godar did not have heating, did not have water even, water supply. And it was also one of the reasons with the panic to escape and to go outside or to the safer places and so on. I think that this thermal plant is delivering water, but what I understood is that 11 drill wells are enough to achieve this 250 cubic meters per hour. So this is enough. But naturally, you have this and you have the hot water from the thermal power plant, much better. But this is not sustainable on medium term because this is now to keep the things like they are now. Let's imagine that tomorrow the war is finished and so on. I guess that they will need a long time to put the things in order the installation, and then to assure sufficient water or to build cooling towers. You don't have water, you need also to refrigerate the radiator through cooling towers. So it means that the thing is stable, but stable. The instability is constant, but remains there. But there will be a lot of work to do in the plant to put one reactor again in operation for long term.
Is there any question?
There is one question, but I have also a question. I go first. Mine or? Well, there is a question from Patricia Pla, who I know her. She works at JRC. And she says, excellent presentation. And she's asking, from which sources did you get all the information? For example, the situation with the staff at the nuclear power plant.
Yes. Well, first of all, let me say that I'm very pleased to have a question of Patricia Pla, because I knew her when she started in Israel. I think I was one of the officials in Brussels approving this visit, and we have had contact during years. And Jan Flamentos told me that now she is continuing working in GRC. And the sources, I mean, all these are public sources. Even I have friends in Russia and Ukraine. There is nothing secret here. I mean, the main source are the reports of the inspectors. I mean, IAEA is delivering 1 or 2 updates every week. If you keep this, as I have done, now we have 226 updates. The latest one is the number 226. So every week is 1 or 2 updates, and you can follow, if you continue to follow, you can see more or less the situation. But then I have also, from public resources, I have the page RBC Ukraine, which is a Ukrainian very well-known newspaper web platform, and you have there different information, not only from technical things, but also political and so on, but you can go directly to look what is about Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So there you have the Ukrainian vision of the situation. And then you have also from Euratom, you have also in the web the Russian view of the same situation. So you can also have, there is also, there are pages which are public. Even in Russian, you could have the translation in English or in Spanish and so on. So these are the 3 main sources. Then, yes, well, if you are following the international news and so on, sometimes you have from different countries, from Germany, from the Spiegel or the Guardian, and serious newspapers and magazines. You can have also some specific reports. But everything is public. I mean, there's nothing secret that somebody is telling me something. No, this is just, if you search and you continue searching and so on, you keep updated the situation.
Okay, and I have a question on, well, it's a difficult question, but let's see. Here the main problem that can lead to an accident, I think, is some sort of negligence. If everybody, if any of the two sides may have an interest that there is a problem, because what will be the outcome? So you say, if there is a problem, the world will change. For the moment, it seems that both are not interested, but it could be, is any of the two sides could have an interest on having that there is an issue on the plan.
This is a very delicate question. I have my opinion, but I will tell you later. No, but no, because this is not. I can speak about technical things, but naturally everybody has our own opinions, no?
Yeah.
But it's true that the situation will change with a small accident, with, let's say, small release like TMI, which in fact was very small, but it was the first time that the core melted. The political impact and psychological impact will be huge, and the framework will be different, for sure.
Are there any simulations ongoing in order to assess and to quantify what would be like this radioactive release in case that there would be an accident?
If there are such assessments, I am not aware. But okay, this is really speculation. You can calculate that the residual heat is very low, but naturally it depends how long you stay without cooling, how long will be the damage of the melting situation. We know that the iodine and xenon will disappear because of the short half-life, but the strontium strontium 90 or cesium 137 will last 20 years. If you have a release of these radioisotopes, it's a problem, for sure. But at least here, iodine is very short half-life. Will not be a big impact. Will be strontium and cesium, yes.
So then will it be more or less like Three-Mile Island, or like?
Look at, I don't have now the figures, but the impact of TMI was not the quantity, was the fact, the quality of having that down in the reactor core and to have release. This was the impact. Also at that time, you have to understand that the community, the world was different. In '79, it's 45 years ago, the nuclear community thought that they were champions and nothing can cure and so on. The world has changed. You need transparency, you need a lot of things, and the new designs are much better. Also, the design of the steam generators in TMI was not appropriate and led to misinterpretation of the operators of what was the situation. I mean, it does not mean that all installations could not be operated safely, no. But I mean, the concepts have changed a lot. But to compare radiological impact is very difficult because each scenario is different. Yes.
So now I have one more question.
Please.
There is a comment, I think, very good presentation, excellent presentation and what he learned, but there's another one, a question from Fernando Pelayo. He's from CSN. Had Geneva Convention 1977 amendment been ratified, would it be still need a new convention? So if they ratify that convention...
Yes. Well, also, I would like to thank Pelayo for this question. We know from each other since 40 years, when I was in the Consejo also. And yes, in fact, it would have helped to have ratified this in the sense that there will be more compromise by the Russians in that case, which withdraw the ratification. But nevertheless, this Protocol 1 is not covering properly the situation.
Yeah.
So it means that the question is not just to ratify what we have, it's to improve what we have and to have it ratified. Yes.
Do you know what was like the militaristic benefit of blowing up the dam? They had like a dam, and I understand in 1941 it was to avoid troops crossing, but right now in 2024 the mobility of troops is much higher, and there are drones, there are a lot of different. And you don't impede as much by blowing up a dam. Like what do the Russians win by blowing up the dam compared to now the risk that they have of the cooling of this nuclear power plant that affects them as well? They don't want. I don't think they want an accident there because it could affect their territory as well. So why did they do this? You know?
Yes. Well, we are normal citizens, thinking as normal citizens, I would say, no? And it's true. I don't know who destroyed the dam. This is the first thing. But I can tell you what the both parties are saying. I mean, the Ukrainians are saying that Russians destroyed the dam in order to avoid the announced counteroffensive from the Kherson province, which means down the dam. And in fact, this offensive did not occur at the end, for whatever reasons. Perhaps it had an influence, but nevertheless. And then the Russian says, for instance, probably there are different arguments, but what I have heard, for instance, that why to destroy the dam, which is delivering water for Crimea. 90% of the water of Crimea is coming from this dam. I mean, now the Crimea is suffering a lot because the agriculture, they don't have water. And yes, this is the situation, but I don't know who destroyed it now.
Thank you.
There are a lot of countries in the EU that don't have nuclear power, and
In the world trade?
in the EU that don't have nuclear power.
Half of them.
Yeah, so I come from Portugal, which doesn't have nuclear power. And in the beginning of the war, a major narrative was that because of the war, there was a higher risk for nuclear power plants, and some parties try to justify that to not have nuclear power in Portugal. What do you tell those parties and those people who would advocate with this?
Well, yes, I mentioned that if the international community is not able to counter the situation, to properly protect nuclear installations, and in particular nuclear power plants, I mean, the production of electricity and heat for this country is also heat, not only electricity, through nuclear power plants or desalinization. Other countries are using nuclear power plants for desalinization. I mean, the use of nuclear power plants is compromised, and the credibility of the nuclear power, the standards of understood nuclear power is compromised, for sure. But I mean, your question is more wide. I mean, all technologies have risk, no? And nuclear for sure also has risk, no? The point is the use of the technologies. And I mean, with nuclear you can produce bombs, no? You can have serious accidents like Chernobyl, the biggest one. But on the other side, you have also nuclear applications for industry, for health. You are saving thousands of lives every year with radioisotopes, no? And you can have also limitation of CO2. I mean, I don't know whether you know 1 ton of high radioactive waste, the equivalence on tons of CO2. So it means that in this case, the consideration to have or not to have nuclear power plants, I think for the government is much more exhaustive analysis than just the war in Ukraine. Naturally, we would have, let's say, sharing of the installation affecting irradiated fuel facilities and so on, and release of, I mean, not only the framework of the war will change, but also impact on the general consideration of nuclear will also be affected. But in the same way that there are countries which voted, for instance, the referendum in Italy against nuclear, or here we have the moratoria of nuclear for nuclear and so on. There are other countries with different framework. I mean, last year, European Commission declared that nuclear power could also help to mitigate climate change by reducing CO2 emissions. No? But I mean, this is not new. There was a big discussion in the media whether, but for instance, Olkiluoto, the nuclear power plant in Finland, was decided in the 90s, in order to cope with the national emissions of the Paris Agreement and to be more independent energetically. No? So at that time, the parliament in Finland declared nuclear as beneficial for the environment. Korea in 2008 declared nuclear as green energy. More or less what said the European Commission last year. So means you could have examples for all the choice possibilities. But for me, I think that to decide to have nuclear or not depends on the resources you have. For Korea, for instance, why they declare nuclear as green energy? Because they don't have resources. They have more than 20 nuclear power plants or reactors in operation, and they depend on nuclear. If they would have an accident, strong, severe accident in Korea, will be a drama for them because they depend on nuclear. Other countries don't depend on nuclear. So there are other considerations, not just the situation, unless the situation will be very worse.
Another question from Fernando that I think is very interesting, and he's asking, would the criminal court be operative under current circumstances to proceed against criminal war actions in case of civil accidents as a result of attack on the power plant?
I think this is a question for jurists. but I guess that there is a clear attack to destroy and to cause damage to the population, to the nature, and so on. For sure, it could be considered.
I think it's even in now this situation, because I discussed about this with him. He thinks that even now, if there is an accident now, it will be a consequence for sure because of the attack. Because of the many things that you have described, they put at risk the power plant, so that accident would be a consequence of the war. So he's asking, in this situation, could you put these people who ordered to invade the power plant to the court?
Yes, but you know that there are presently other crises in the world, and the court in La Haya is considering whether to put somebody, accuse somebody or not. I mean, naturally, if somebody will bring the case to the international court, the international court will decide. So this is not excluded that the situation here could be brought to the attention of the international court. That's it.
There are no more questions, neither Ian or... no more questions.
Yeah. How do you think that this problem could be solved? Like, is there any chance of cooperation between the two countries to control the plant, or you think it's going to be one side?
Without peace, I don't think that there is a solution agreeable for both parties. I mean, Russia wants to consider this a Russian province. Ukraine also internationally, and the board of the agency is claiming the devolution of the plant. And well, this is important, but it's not the key question of the war. I mean, if there is an agreement a peace agreement for the war, naturally this will be one chapter more of this peace agreement. But so Rafael Grossi is doing his best, speaking with the high-level officials of both parties to at least to keep this situation as separated of the war, which is not easy.
But do you think that there could be a solution similar to the one that has been suggested for Israel and Palestine, which is having like, for example, the International Energy Agency be responsible for the plant instead of either of the two
Well,
countries?
this is one of the points, one of the elements which is considered now for the future standards of the agency in frameworks of war or armed conflicts. This is one consideration, that an installation could be put under international control. But this is just one suggestion to be considered. We will see now in mid of this year, the agency will publish this document, technical document, which will be the basis of the future standards. But okay, they are working in this direction, but the mandate is still not there. The mandate for the agency to be focused there is still not there. So they are advancing more or less a possible future scenario where the agency will be able to establish the standards for armed environments with armed conflicts. But okay, they are working in this direction, and we will see this document very soon, probably mid of this year. We will see the main elements of these conclusions and considerations. But naturally, to have an installation with demilitarized security and safety zone under international control, this seems reasonable. It is still to be seen. Yeah. So they are working in this direction.
And just to top this up, do you anticipate any problems on this solution of having the International Energy Agency manage plants in terms of politics?
Well, we can see, we look at the history that whenever was after the crisis, there were something new really covering this situation. So I think that the international community realized that the standards need to be, that something should be done to avoid future involvement, engagement with nuclear facilities in armed conflicts. Ideally, if there is peace without a nuclear accident, these things will be reconsidered, and my opinion, it is my opinion that there will be new standards for armed conflicts which be consented by the international community. So, the same way that a kind of non-aggression treaty for nuclear installations would also help not to normalize these activities or to justify whatever action against nuclear facilities.
Just one quick question.
Okay, last one, and we stop.
So, is there any reason why the Russians attacked the research nuclear center in Kiev, other than making the public to be scared?
Well, at the beginning of the invasion, many places in Ukraine were attacked. I think now we have a permanent front, but nevertheless, the fight is not only the front line of the war. You have seen this picture, no? There are drone attacks or wherever in the country. So this is part of the military strategy. Actually attacking nuclear research center had also psychological impact, more than attacking, destroying a bridge, for instance. No? So, what was behind this? I mean, it continues. I mean, there are attacks in Ukraine, but there are more than 100 attacks from drones in Russian territory already. So, I am not saying that this is balanced, but I mean, this is not only the front line where people are dying. This is the drama. People are dying.
We can stop here, and I think we can connect again. Here, thank you for the audience, to online remote audience, and keep posted. We will continue with this type of activities in the future. So,